I have with me here Aaron Dworkin. Aaron's the founder of the Sphinx Organization and guest artist. Aaron, what was your motivation for creating the American Rhapsody?
Well, so I've kind of done a lot of spoken word with classical music over the years, devising different pieces, and I've also done some existing ones like the Lincoln Portrait. And one of the things that I noticed with a lot of existing pieces is that it's either text or music. And what I love doing is really taking the text and intertwining it fully with the music, where phrases reflect each other, and even the articulation that I use in my voice and reflecting articulations that the different orchestral parts are doing, things like that. And so I was thinking about that and thinking about wanting to do a new work that would take a historical figure's commentary, text, or speeches, but where that could be relevant today. So I started thinking about that and came upon, of course, George Washington, and especially found in reading a lot of his writings that they're very relevant for many people today in terms of his commentary on democracy and on leadership. And so I said, okay, what if I begin to take this? And then I thought it would be kind of interesting to juxtapose this with a British composer, and then with kind of this theme of diversity that runs through a lot of what I do. What if it was a black British composer? And so that led me to Samuel Coleridge Taylor.
Right.
And so then in beginning to look at possible works to use, I came across the work that he created, which was symphonic variations on an African air. And that he created when he was inspired when the Fisk Jubilee Singers came over to Britain and sang, and one of the pieces they sang was Troubled in Mind, Negro Spiritual. And that really spoke to Samuel Coleridge Taylor, and he ended up building the piece off of that melody. So ultimately, American Rhapsody is taking an African-American spiritual contextualized through a black British composer and funneling and experiencing the words and the commentary on democracy of the leader of the rebellion against Britain.
So what is the central message then of that text of American Rhapsody?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of twofold. So one is certainly the idea of leadership in a democracy and what a democracy means, and a reflection on kind of how George Washington approached that, combined with the complexity of the human condition in that there's so much to learn and to be in awe and inspired by about him, but he also owned 317 slaves. And to then think about that and understand that and contextualize also his understanding of that, because a lot of people look back and go, George Washington freed his slaves, and think about it in a very simplistic way. But through the work, I actually share the complexity of that and how he thought about freeing his slaves, because it wasn't actually just a simple sense of let's just free them all. And so those types of things, the economies of slavery, arise in the piece.
What was it about Samuel Coleridge Taylor also that drew you to his music?
Well, first and foremost, he's an incredible composer. And this piece is just a gorgeous piece with some soaring melodies, and the way in which he just shapes the sound and the flavor of what he's doing, I just really found myself very attracted to and bound to. So that, I think, is kind of first and foremost. And then also kind of these functional things that I did want to have someone who was speaking with the flavor as a British composer combined with the leader of rebellion against Britain.
Yeah, what was British about his music too?
Oh, I think, there's certainly one part that's kind of almost like a British march, so you kind of hear this come through in the winds, and it's, just this kind of sense of, you can almost visualize it, and then you visualize through the text that's coming through the actual armies of, the American rebellion. So it's kind of interesting.
Kind of an early take on the Imperial March.
Right, yes.
What do you hope that people will take away after hearing American Rhapsody?
Yeah, I definitely hope that, first of all, every single person who hears it takes away something of substance and of meaning for them. It may be different for different people, and I think that's important too, for any good artistic work. For some, I do hope that they come away with a deeper sense of the history of democracy in our country and of the way that literally our founding father thought about it and depicted that in his own conduct and actions. But then also I hope that people will reflect on this complexity of the human condition, and that people who we revere can often, especially in retrospect, have either frailties or aspects to what they did that in a new time we may find even abhorrent. And how do we learn from that, and how do we think about the decisions we make today to build our future?
Musician, composer, and founder of the Sphinx Organization, Aaron Dworkin, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.